I don't want to do it. I know you probably don't want to either, but we should talk about the game. um,
Yeah.
the Browns got absolutely slaughtered. I did not see this coming whatsoever. Um, and that's just what it is. The Browns got absolutely manhandled on that field. Offense in the second half, defense in the first half, and really the second half. I mean, Tristan, um, there's multiple different lanes we could go with this, and why things happened the way they did. But before we get into offense, defense, special teams, whatever, just overall general opinions, I'll give you mine first because I'll be really quick. I was very disappointed. I think this team had a lot more in them. I think that there was a point in the game where the momentum completely turned, and I feel like we let them have it. I think there really wasn't that fight that we've seen this year, and that scares me. That's really disappointing. I'm not gonna hate on Joe Flacco. I know a lot of people will, but at some point the reality of his situation had to come into effect, and reality is he is at the very end of his career. Pretty much all he's have has been given, and he made a lot of key mistakes today, and ultimately I think that's why the Texans got what they got. Like you said, 2 pick sixes. That's You can't have that. Can't even have one, let alone two. So lot to get into, but just overall, it's hard. It's very hard sitting where we're at right now
Yeah.
to even put it into words and try to understand, because none of this makes sense at all, at least to me. But Tristan, just in general reaction, before we get into the details of it, what are some of your biggest takeaways, I guess?
Yeah, so Kevin Stefanski after the game, he came out and he pretty much said that we picked the worst week to have our worst game. And I think that sums it up really. Every team has bad games. Every team struggles at times in the season. And again, this was just one of those where it was our worst game. For me, I still feel like if we were to play this game again, if we were to play this game 10 times, I think we win at least 5. I still do. This game, and this is the thing that sucks, that absolutely sucks about this game, is I feel like this game is going to just create a whole lot of negativity towards the off season because of the way that we lost it. The Just like the first game that we played them, this is not an accurate depiction of the talent level of these two teams. I really don't feel that way. Um, I think that we got to look at this game, and the reality is, yes, we got our ass kicked. We absolutely got it handed to us. But are we confident that if this was like a best of 3, we don't come back and
Yeah,
win the next 2? I would feel
I
confident
completely agree.
because there's no way we could play that. There's no way we could play worse than that. But the reality is, this is the NFL, and it's the NFL playoffs. You can only you're a week by week team.
Yep.
You're only as good as you are this week. Nothing that happens before matters. Regular season, playoff, forget it. Throw it out the window. And you're going to see a lot of the national media saying the Browns are not that good. The Browns, overrated, yada, 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 whatever. No. This team, I guarantee if this team played this game again, we would not see it this bad. The Texans still might win, because they're a talented football team. They showed that today. But it does not look this bad. Yeah. So before we get into the details, Derek, any final thoughts?
No, I agree with you. I think, last thing I'll say real fast is I think people got to understand the game of football is determined by so many different things that you really don't even think about. And like you said, you mentioned it. A lot of the biggest problems here were individual problems, and it's a team sport. Each guy's got to do their job. I think there were certainly some players today that didn't do their job well enough, and you paid for that. But also, and we'll get into it, but the little things, right? The Browns not getting the ball out of the second half, I thought was huge because at that point in the game, the Texans are going down, and then they get the ball coming out of half. It's like, man, you got to be able to build some momentum, and I feel like we couldn't. We literally couldn't. And you mentioned it. The points at where the Texans were starting with the football, they got great field position many times in that game. I thought the Browns started off with horrible field position many times in the game. And these are not excuses. I'm not saying this is why we lost, but what I'm trying to say here is it's the little things that add up. And for me, that's kind of why I think this game went as horribly as it did. But obviously, there are a lot of details with that. There's a lot of little things that we'll talk about here. So that's a good time to transition. The offense. So you mentioned it, first half, and especially I think in that first quarter. I mean, we were going stride for stride. I think the Texans were moving the ball. CJ was moving the ball. So were we. We were getting the job done. Yet another game where David Njoku comes out and plays very well. And I thought Amari Cooper had a pretty good game. It wasn't to the level the last time when we played the Texans, that's for sure. But I thought he had a relatively good game. But Tristan, just overall, many different lanes we could go here with the offense. But tale of two halves, man. What do you have to say on it?
So yeah, let me knock out the good first, right? I thought David Bell played really well, stepping up, filling in for Cedric Tillman, came down with everything. That was the David Bell that we had been wanting to see this whole year. The third round pick out of Purdue, the guy that, on draft day, Brian Hartline tweets out, if you need a receiver, grab David Bell. And then like 5 minutes later, we grab him. Like, that's the guy that we wanted to see this whole year. And it was nice to know that we threw him into a tough position in a playoff game, and he came up and he played well, man. I'm really impressed by David Bell. And this is a game that, while the team and the fans and everybody else should look at and say, this was a travesty, I think he should look at this and say, you know what? I'm capable of being a good receiver in the NFL. I'm capable. And, hopefully that feels him in the offseason and he can improve and be ready for next year. Because I thought he played really well. You mentioned him, David Njoku.
Real quick.
Go ahead.
Quick, yeah. I just want to throw this in here since you mentioned it. I pulled it up real fast. David Bell today had 8 receptions, which is crazy.
Insane.
54 yards out of David Bell, which is huge.
Sorry to cut you off here. There was one play where he, it was 2nd and 15, I want to say it was. And he, was running what in route. Yeah, he was running it in. And he cuts across, and Joe threw it high, and it was in between 3 defenders, and he comes up and he grabs it, and he's hanging on to it for dear life, and it was just such an impressive play because he got hit by 2 guys with the third guy coming around him trying to knock the ball out, and he came down with it, and it was great. His performance was fantastic.
Do you know before you go real fast?
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Would you believe me if I told you that David Bell was the not yards leader? That was David Njoku with 93, but as far as receptions go, it's David Bell with 8, David Njoku with 7, and then Harrison Bryant with 4, and Amari Cooper with 4. Elijah Moore had only 2. Dude, what in the world? What world do we live in?
Yeah, exactly.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. But there's still a few more guys I want to give praise to. So David Njoku, as you mentioned, he came out and he was as advertised. What we expected from him today, we got. we got a great performance out of him. Yeah, it was a wasted good performance, unfortunately. Yeah. Same with David Bell. Like, this was a career game for David Bell. Like, this is nuts. Like, the 54 yards doesn't do him justice. Like, he made some plays,
he
man.
Earned them.
Like, Joe went to him. Yeah, like he was good. He was effective, and he was exactly what we thought he would be, a good short yardage guy, But regardless, third guy, you already said his name, Harrison Bryant.
How? Like, how is Harrison Bryant like? Oh my gosh, dude.
Listen. He stepped up and he made some plays, man. Like, he came ready to play. And that's what pisses me off is, like, it's playoff games like this where it's like typically it comes down to your, like, the guys with the lesser roles stepping up. And we got that today. We got that today from those two guys. It was so frustrating because if everybody else plays up to the level that they're supposed to, like, those performances are absolutely amazing. They're complementary into a great playoff win. But yeah, we'll get into it. JOK was all over the field. He was fantastic. There was one play where I'll have to go back and watch the film. That touchdown that I can't. Brevin Jordan is it? I think the tight end. If I'm not mistaken, I think that was JOK's guy, because there was him and then there was Obo that were rushing CJ, and the guy was just left on an island. Which I'm almost certain it was JOK's guy,
So, not to jump in, but
no, go ahead.
Yeah,
go ahead.
On that play, you had JOK was supposed to drop back into coverage. CJ was rolling out. Obo was rushing him, but I think what happened was JOK saw CJ rolling out, wanted to make the play, assumed somebody was going to pick him up, because if you watch just the way that was structured, clearly JOK was supposed to drop back. I'm not going to blame him for it, even though it was his mistake. Like, I get what he was doing. It was see ball, get ball from him, which is what he does great. That's why we love him. But in that situation, that was just using our aggressiveness against ourselves. So, but yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. I thought outside of that play, he had a really great game, which funnily enough, he really didn't even start to have like that great game until after that play. So it was like, after that play, you try to make up for it. The other guy I wanted to point out, part of the reason why I'm putting him in good is because pretty much everybody else had a terrible game, and I just didn't notice him out there. Denzel Ward. I don't think he really got beat at all today. There's no recollection of me of a busted coverage by him, which, by the way, there were a bunch of busted coverages today. I don't remember seeing a busted coverage by him. I'm trying to think, did he get beat? I think Collins beat him a couple of times, but I'm not sure. I can't. I have to come back and watch the film on it again. I put a question mark next to his name, so if somebody's like watching this or listening to this and saying, "No, Denzel got burnt like 3 times," scratch it off my list. Okay. From my memory from watching this very traumatic experience, I'm almost certain that of the not so terrible parts of it, he was okay. But I have to watch the film back. Yeah. Now the bad stuff. Greg Newsome got absolutely just oh my God, he was sliced up. He was dissected. Bobby Slowick pretty much put a red X over him and said, "I'm feasting on you." And it was so bad for him today. He is usually not that bad. Like, I think we know this. He is not that bad. He's one of the better nickel corners in the league. He's transcended into that guy with inside-outside versatility too. He's not that bad. But today, man, I think Eli Apples had some better games. Like, that was terrible. I'm sure we'll get into that more as well, so I'll leave it at that with him. Offensive tackles, both of them, Hudson, uh, and my
Jerron
God,
Christian.
John Christian, yeah, got abused today. Um, Will Anderson and Grenard had absolutely feasted on them today. You know, we kind of knew that they weren't great at their positions, but what we had been getting out of them was okay. You know, like they were okay. They weren't a liability.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Today they were both liable, very very liable, huge liabilities, and technically on both the interceptions, it was their failure in pass pro that led to the interceptions, of course, with bad throws from Joe. Um, yeah. Um, our D line got absolutely bodied. Absolutely. Like on both sides of the football, we got demolished on the line of scrimmage. Um, Again, with Miles, it's hard because he gets chipped, he gets double teamed, he gets held. Um, you know, that's the type of stuff that just happens with him now because you know he's Miles Garrett. People treat him different. Offenses treat him different. Um, Everybody else on the D line today was pretty atrocious. Not gonna lie to you. I don't really remember any play that a D lineman made um, that JOK didn't really like put into their hands. Like Dalvin Tomlinson had like a tackle for loss, but JOK like got in there first, shot for a guy's legs, and it's like cleanup work. Um, their offensive line just absolutely killed us. And this D line is supposed to be the trademark of this defense, and it was terrible today. Absolutely atrocious. Got absolutely eaten alive by the offensive line from the Texans. The secondary, like as a whole, today, busted coverages. You know, guys just like I'll also say I was disappointed in MJ Emerson today. Not necessarily for like his coverage, like one on one. Again, that was a guy I didn't really see get burnt a whole lot. But the reason why I didn't put MJ Emerson on my good list was because he looked scared to make tackles today, man.
Hmm.
Like there was a play in particular. Um, Nico Collins was coming around. It was an end around, or it was like a throw to the flat behind the line of scrimmage. I can't remember, but Collins was essentially like 5 yards behind the line of scrimmage, and MJ was like three in front of it, and you know all MJ really had to do was run up and meet him and hit him hard, and he runs up, does like a half-assed attempt at a tackle, and then JOK comes through and does the cleanup. And in a game like this, man, you can't be afraid to hit. MJ Emerson's a big physical guy. I know Nico Collins is bigger and more physical, but you can't like be afraid to throw a hit like that. That for me was just like, ugh, come on, MJ. He's much better than that. Much better than that. And it was disappointing. Safeties, I mean, how many times did we see guys get in behind him? How many tackles did we see not get done? And that is actually on the linebackers too. Like just missed tackles from the safeties and linebackers. Yeah, just pitiful from those guys. And this last one, I didn't think I'd be as upset with these guys as I am. Special teams.
Yeah.
Corey Bjorquez, man, like he's been a great punter this whole year, arguably one of the best punters in the league. He didn't flip field for us at all today.
No.
He was
Yeah.
bad. Well, it's twofold because we couldn't pin them back at all to save our life. When we did, we got them off the field. But we couldn't get him pinned back to save our life. And every drive, Flacco was coming out and starting from his 10, his 15. Yep. The only time he got to start like further than that was off of touchdowns when we didn't return the football and it got brought out to the 25. Like, it was brutal, brutal by the special teams unit today. I don't even think our Hopkins replacement, Riley Patterson, even had to kick once. So, I can't really say anything bad about him. Hell, they damn near blocked a couple of punts.
Yeah.
like it was bad all over the place, special teams. Just didn't come to play ultimately. That's all I've got for now. I am sure there's probably a whole nother level,
Yeah.
a whole nother level that I haven't gotten to yet. This was just a list that I made in like 5 minutes during the middle of the game. Once when we were down 45-14. Derek, the good, the bad, and the ugly. What did you think?
Well, let's start with the good. Even though for me, I don't think there was a whole lot. I really don't. The biggest takeaway I had from this game as far as the good things is I don't care what position he plays. I don't care what his value is on the open market. I don't care what the value of the position is. Give JOK a blank check. He has to remain a member of the Cleveland Browns. Like that, it's just, that's
agree.
it. Like JOK, similar to Grant Delpit and how Grant Delpit has leveled up and has played at an unbelievable level this year. JOK, game in, game out, every single play that he is on the field is making an impact some way, somehow. Like, you can't take anything away from JOK at all from this game. He played out of his mind, like you said. And the Texans relatively weren't able to run the ball for the most part. I know, obviously, if you look at the box score and as things kind of ended up, probably looks good. But as far as the meat and potatoes of that game, JOK shut down the run. Like, absolutely single-handedly shut down the run. So, it's a future discussion, but JOK has to remain a Cleveland Brown. I don't care how we have to do it.
He can be extended this offseason because this upcoming year is his last year. We can extend him, and we should. We should.
Yeah, no question. No question at all. But yeah, JOK is the number one shining star from this game, if you want to say it like that. For me, number 2 was David Njoku. Just came out, continued. I've been saying it week after week. He's the best tight end in football right now. He played like it. He still did. Did he have drops a couple times in this game? Yeah, sure. But for the most part, I thought he played very, very well. Mari Cooper, same thing. I thought he played well. Kareem Hunt, 2 touchdowns. Didn't have a whole lot of yards, but hey, you put up points. And, that's what we needed. At that point in the game, it was a different story as far as how that game was going. So for Kareem Hunt to, on the shovel pass, get a touchdown and then just run it right up the middle for a touchdown, got to give some flowers to him. You mentioned him. David Bell had a really good game. Career game. Is he, we'll have discussions in the offseason at wide receiver. I've certainly got a lot of opinions on it. But as far as what he showed today, he showed a lot of promise. And this is what I think we should have been getting out of David Bell. So, great to see. Harrison Bryant, I thought, was about as useless as the rock sitting in the driveway out there. And for him to do what he did today, even though it was really for nothing, I thought it was really good. So, there you go. I mean,
even though it was for nothing, I thought it was pretty good.
It didn't amount to anything. Like, it's not like Harrison Bryant was a key reason why we won the game. Like, we got blown out, but
thanks for a career
no,
game,
literally.
but go fuck yourself.
No, literally. I mean, that's how I feel. It's like I want to be like, hey, JOK, amazing game.
I'm laughing with you because it's just so ridiculous.
It sounds so funny to say because it's like you look at it and it's like, hey, the Browns got absolutely wiped the floor with them.
Oh my god!
But
Derek,
there's a couple guys who had really good games. Like
Derek, what if I told you before the game started, right, that David Bell is going to have 8 receptions and I don't know the
54
stats,
yards, I think.
54 yards, and Harrison Bryant was going to have his best game as a Brown and be really impactful, you would think, damn, we really smoked them, didn't we?
No, you know what? You know what I would be thinking? I'd be saying, yeah, man, the drugs in PA must be something different because I don't know what y'all got going on, but
yeah, right.
dude,
Geez.
it's just like I don't know, man. This game is so confusing, but I'll leave it at that. That's the good, right? The bad, the bad, the bad. No Browns after dark. The bad. There's a lot. There is so much here to discuss. We could sit here for the next 2 hours talking about it, which obviously we're not going to. But the offensive line was horrible today. Like Deron Christian, James Hudson, you mentioned them, but in agreements with you, is that a word? Agreement. Agreements. There you go.
No,
I don't know.
Right.
Whatever.
Agreement.
I'm agreeing with you. That's the point. They sucked. They were horrible. And I think Will Anderson is a great player. I think I can't even remember.
Jonathan Grenard.
I think they're good players, right? Should you be absolutely manhandled by them? No. No, you should not. And I think both of those guys sucked. I hate to do this, but we got to talk about it. As much as great moments as he's given us and as thankful as I will be for what his time here in Cleveland was, Joe Flacco sucked today. Decision making was horrible at times today. He held on to the ball way too long. And yes, that's a part of the offensive line and their struggles. But Joe Flacco, for me, it was almost like I had a little bit of, and I'm not saying this name to hate on him, and I know he's a hot topic in the Browns community whenever you bring his name up. But Baker, when he was here, every time he dropped back, I was like, okay, how long is he going to hold on to this ball? Every single time it felt like he was holding on to the ball too long, and then you'd be worried about him making a bad decision. That's how I felt with Flacco today, and I have not felt that way with Flacco once since he's been a member of the Cleveland Browns, and that sucked. That really sucked. The run game. Tristan, we talked about it. If this team was going to be successful, you have to have a run game. We had none. We had no run game. Kareem Hunt, I just saw the stats. I think he had 2 touchdowns, but he had like 27 yards. He was the rushing leader. So I don't have the stats in front of me at the moment, but if Kareem Hunt was your rushing leader at 27, that tells me Jerome Ford sucked. So I think he finished with like 22 or something. But we had no run game. None at all. Man, I'll leave it at that offensively. But defensively, I'll save the one because obviously we're going to talk about it. I'll save him for last. But defensively, I thought nobody on that defensive line made an impact whatsoever. CJ Stroud, whether it be him just being great, he got the ball out fast, but I thought there were times where it was like, okay, where's the pass rush? And nobody was there. I think Walker today, AWalk, struggled. Normally he plays.
Anthony Walker wasn't playing.
Was he not?
No, he's on IR, man.
Wait, hold on. Why am I not thinking right? Hold on. It was Taki. Was it Tony Fields out there?
Who's number 30? Because that's who I think it was. Although I might be wrong.
I don't know. Tony Fields is 42. JOK 6. Taki's 44.
Yeah, let me see. Because I know what you're talking about.
I feel really stupid now. Because I don't know why I totally thought AWalk was playing.
Mm-hmm. Let me see if I can look and see who.
Well, anyway.
But go ahead.
While you're looking that up, whoever it was, I thought outside of JOK, the linebackers were beyond below average. Taki at times was good. I noticed him. But yeah, man. And then this secondary was atrocious. I mean, Ronnie Hickman has been playing out of his mind so far. He got bullied today. he got bullied today, and I think a part of that was CJ knows him. Like, I hate to say that, but I think that is a part of it. Um, Juan Thornhill has been such a disappointment for me. Tristan, I don't know if you feel the same, but when we signed Juan Thornhill, I thought he was the cherry on top of this defense and the cherry on top of the secondary. Um, to just be that guy who cleans things up in the secondary. And he's been hurt off and on throughout the year, and he's been okay at times. But boy, has he been disappointing, in my opinion, at least.
Yeah. So I think it was Tony Fields who
Okay.
it must have been because him or Jordan Kunasik, because they are the only ones that of the rest of the linebackers. I think they're the only ones that even had a tackle.
Okay.
Each of them was only one. Although I know that Deron Harmon had a rough game too. But yeah, it's hard to pinpoint. We can look back at it, but not for a very long time because I think we're both traumatized.
No, for real. But just overall, I thought the safeties played terrible. I think we were missing Grant Delpit big time today. The corners, they didn't have their best game for sure. But like you said, I thought Denzel Ward played fine. Like, he was okay. He was fine. Emerson, for the most part, was fine. But let's just go ahead and transition here, because one of the topics that I wanted to discuss today, I know it's more of an off-season topic. Greg Newsome. This is not a emotional reaction. I think, Tristan, you know me well enough to know when I'm just pissed off and I say things I shouldn't say. This is not one of those times. I genuinely believe that Greg Newsome should be moved off of this team for multiple reasons.